Welcome to the Travel Ones podcast, and today my guest is Dr. Gerald Horn. How are you today, Doctor?
Awesome. I'm really excited to be on this podcast and look forward to our conversation.
And I so appreciate the time. We have so many different ways we're going to be able to go with this conversation, but you're the CEO of Breinfuel, which is I like the term, it's a cerebral beverage. And as business travelers, dealing with jet lag is a big thing. So, you're sucking down a lot of caffeine with a lot of sugary drinks or coffee, trying to get your schedule back on schedule, and that throws you off. What are some of the backgrounds of how and why you started Breinfuel?
The background, I think it's kind of an interesting story because the background is I do pharmaceutical drug development. I'm also a LASIK surgeon, but I do pharmaceutical drug development. I have an eye drop that's crushed the industry, I guess you could say, not just because of me. It was branded and licensed by Bausch Healthcare. And it was just a differentiated, better way to get rid of redness. It actually whitens the eyes tremendously, and it's very safe to use. And you could just get results from it and use it much more often than you could with any of the previous drugs. So basically, the things I've been involved with, I have a reading eye drop. It's kind of interesting. You put a drop in your eye if you need reading glasses, and everything's in focus. That's the principle. From near to infinity, we call it. So that if you're looking at a book, the distance is still sharp in the background. Even if you're 25 and look at a book, it's blurry. So the things I've been involved with, I'm just a nerdy guy. So I tend to differentiate. Yeah, that'll be a few years, but that's an exciting project.
Yeah.
And so I've had some other projects. Everything I've done has been kind of my nerdy brain just sees things in a certain way. And so I started playing with caffeine. I'm a busy LASIK surgeon, and busy surgery days, and I didn't really like coffee didn't last long enough. And, whatever comes up comes down when it comes to coffee and caffeine. Yeah. And energy drinks even worse. Not really worse as not an okay product. Let's face it, it's $1 billion industry. But I mean, in terms of resonating great energy drinks are limited, and coffee is limited, but less than energy drinks, if you think about it. So it was obvious to me from the first moment, caffeine being a stimulant, energy drinks don't support it metabolically. They support it the least. They're the closest thing to caffeine in water. A nootropic actually is even more so, except nootropics add other stuff. If you just took caffeine as a nootropic, you'd have, the vanilla effect of caffeine, right? Yeah. Caffeine unsupported completely. Now you go to an energy drink and get a few amino acids. You go to coffee, a coffee bean or green tea, right? They both have caffeine. They have other stuff in them. Mother Nature evolves for a reason, right? Yep. So you don't just get caffeine when you have a cup of coffee. So I'm looking at that as the landscape, and I'm like, we're not metabolically supporting caffeine. If you outstrip, if a stimulant says to your brain and your body, go, rev up. I'm instructing you, it's like on the gas pedal, right? I'm going to hit the gas, and your brain and body are the engines. Well, are they going to take off if the fuel sucks? I don't think so. No. Are they going to take off if you don't have good antioxidants? Antioxidants are like the equivalent of making sure there's oil in the engine. You don't want it to overheat, right? So you have all this good stuff in the coffee beans and tea. So that from the beginning, I'm like, okay, I'm going to play with caffeine. I'm going to take the best of what's in a coffee bean, the best what's in a tea leaf, and I'm not going to heat it because heat creates other side effects. I don't want to put down coffee because coffee is not a bad thing at all. But there are things in coffee from the roast that you'd rather not have. Yeah. So we took the best of what's in coffee, the coffee bean, the best what's in a tea leaf, and then we supported it. I wanted fuel. And when you think about it in terms of the pharmaceutical doctor side, it's not a pharmaceutical. This is not a drug. But just the concept of thinking is you don't want to fuel your body with things that make your sugar levels spike up.
Exactly.
Because we already know that's not good for your brain. So that's called low glycemic. So I created this fuel blend. It had a natural zero glycemic sugar that your body makes. It's called ribose. And then it has lean protein. We use collagen hydrolyzed so you can digest it. Because collagen has an amino acid in a very high amount, like 30% of it is glycine. And glycine is something your brain uses to keep from overheating. It's one of those antioxidant precursors. So there's all this chemistry going on in developing Breinfuel. And then medium chain triglycerides are a great source of fuel. So that means that the concept was I want a great source of caffeine with what's in coffee beans and what's in green tea. And then I want these fuels to release, in theory, when you drink the caffeine, think about it from a pharmaceutical guy's point of view. The caffeine goes into your body and then it gets released, right?
Yeah.
So you want to release the caffeine gradually if you can. There's ways to do that, hopefully. And then you want the fuels to kind of complement that, like be in sync. So you have a short, medium, and long release of caffeine. In theory, you'd like to have a short, medium, and long release of fuel support. So what would happen if that happened and your brain didn't overheat because you had other good stuff? We have beetroot, the red pigment in beetroot's an antioxidant. Antioxidants prevent overheating in a simplistic sense. What happened was people started to think this was very different. I used to, after a surgery day, be fine, but after dinner, by the time I got home, I would kind of be toast.
Yeah, exactly.
When that changed for me on a regular basis, I knew every time I grinded and I took what became Breinfuel, I didn't crash anymore. And then I gave it to a buddy of mine who's a surgeon and also on the pharmaceutical side, kind of a key opinion leader in the industry. He tried it and he loved it. He had the same experience. So we started to kind of expand that universe. And, it evolved into 4 blends. They're all, I call them nootropic stacks, because every ingredient of the 12 in Breinfuel, if you did a study on that ingredient in the brain, you'd find some study that suggested there's something good there. Okay. And so that's the evolution of Breinfuel. And I mean, it's honestly what coffee is to an energy drink. Whatever you think that difference is, I believe Breinfuel is to coffee. It's just a revolutionary way to experience an energizing beverage. Long after the energizing effects are gone, there's still potential to keep your brain nice and cool and sharp. So that's sort of the nerdy history that led to Breinfuel.
I love the fact that you described it as a nerdy description.
Because that's my personality. I mean, I get into the weeds. I like to look at, research articles.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, with the world today and the web today, you could pretty much get a PhD in anything you want. Maybe they wouldn't give you the degree, but you could do a lot of studies and study a lot of articles and learn an awful lot because everything is there at our fingertips. When I was younger, there was a library in Chicago, the Illinois Institute of Technology, the John Carrara Library. And even then, I like to research articles. I'd go there and I'd sit there and I'd have to pull out these journals and I'd have to go to the copy machine and I'd spend the day trying to get my 30 articles. Now you just sit there online and boom, boom, boom.
I was talking to my wife over the weekend about the microfiche films you'd get at the library to watch old movies and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
The industry that you're getting into is kind of interesting because it's kind of a fitness industry, but it's also just a beverage, So, you've got the backup for all the fitness people. And
so,
yeah.
To me, that leads into something that is a really important subject, and that's how do you market a brand in today's world, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you're always. I see it as we're always on the cutting edge between what's working today and what's going to happen tomorrow. If we would have known when we were using Smith Corona typewriters what was going to happen, we would have sold that stock.
Record players, yeah.
If we would have known what's going to happen to cameras, we had a Kodak cameras, we would have got rid of that company. So we're always at the intersection of what we know versus what the future is. And in that intersection, the goal of business opportunity is to let somebody else figure out what works and then brand as closely as you can to that with more money and more manpower and get a Fortune 500 side to that. So the general kind of dogma of a new product is try not to be completely a new category, because it's very hard to get the consumer in the world
to buy something,
to understand and embrace something that's completely new. Yeah. So what I would say about Breinfuel is, honestly, if you took coffee, including super coffee and bullet coffee, and if you took nootropics and you took energy drinks, we got a piece of every one of those things in Breinfuel. We've evolved from them. We didn't just launch something completely new. You could call us a functional, better for you beverage that has caffeine in it, but it's much more than just about the caffeine. So because it's so well supported, though, there's 360 milligrams of caffeine there. It doesn't work like caffeine in water. I could take 100 milligrams of caffeine in water. It makes me feel ill. I could take Breinfuel. I feel great. It takes an hour to really feel that energy. It's gradual, and it lasts for most people, a long, long time. And you just drift into a space where if you grind, the grinders of the world love brain fuel. UFC fighters seem to be attracted to brain fuel. Poker stars attracted to brain fuel. Even some luminaries in the field have loved brain fuel.
Sure.
But even college kids, they are really a great demographic for us because college kids grind. They want to have fun. They stay up late. They typically, a lot of them study really hard at the same time. They want to be successful, right? The more you need your brain to not get tired, the more you notice brain fuel. And so the truth of the matter is, if something was like coffee, but a step or a notch evolved from that, you could argue it could be very useful in lots of disciplines, from chess to UFC fighting to football. But the common dynamic is demanding high performance and wanting focus. A lot of times when you drink caffeine, because it's not supported well, your brain gets, we call it oxidative stress, with that overheating effect, right? It doesn't tolerate being stimulated without being supported. So then, if you just use caffeine, people are used to the idea sometimes they get brain fog after they have too much caffeine or coffee, right?
Absolutely.
They call it being wired or jittery.
Yep.
That's the opposite of what brain fuel is doing. A lot of times, kids that have been prescribed Adderall will say, I get this focus for a while, but then I get wired and my body feels ripped up because it's a stimulant, right? And anytime a stimulant doesn't have support, those are very common side effects. That's been the premise that led to the development of brain fuel. So I do think it resonates potentially with a lot of categories. I'll tell you who it won't resonate with. People that don't like coffee, don't like caffeine, don't want all the energy, and they don't do much. And I don't mean that in a derogative way. They just have a laid back lifestyle. They don't, if they had a cup of coffee in the morning and they just read the paper and they were having a nice day, maybe enjoying grandchildren, they may not be the target for us. But in general, in this world, there's more stress. There's more demands on our time. There's more multitasking, whether we like it or not. There's more need to be on. How often do we feel like our bodies are ready to go, we're alert, and our brain is on? It's just crap. That is a common way to think about brain fuel. That's what it tries to deliver for you.
Totally agree. It's interesting because I'm in my 50s, my mid-50s, and I have two daughters that graduated college, and I'm a complete, apparently, I don't know much, as my daughters would tell me.
Well, good for you. I've learned that too.
Yeah, so
we have that in common.
So I work at the rodeo every year in Las Vegas. It's 16 straight days. And we have some people that work for us, and they stay up like days on end, like multiple nights in a row. They don't go to sleep. And I'm like, God, even when I was in my 20s, I couldn't do that. And then my friend goes, well, it's Adderall. And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
I had no clue. And then I was talking to my daughters, like, oh, Adderall's all over college. Like, it's everywhere in college.
Oh, it's really common.
Yeah, so,
it's really common.
So getting something like this could be fantastic, because I know kids, I call them kids, my daughter's 27, I call her a kid, but they're still looking for that edge, for that focus, for that extra bump, because they got it in college with coffee or Adderall or whatever they were taking, and now they still want it, even though they don't necessarily need it because they're not studying for a test, but they still want it in their everyday life. And this sounds like a perfect fit.
Yeah, well, I think we're a new product, and we just launched about 6 weeks ago. There's been a lot of real it's a tough time to start, but for a product that just launched, I think we got off to a really, really, really strong start, and we've gotten a lot of interest and excitement. There's some pretty famous people that have decided to associate with our brand, and we're doing the things a startup would do, but we're very excited about our potential.
Yeah. I saw you have Thomas DeLauer, which I actually followed him before I even knew about you. And there's another energy company that I'd never heard of until social media kind of took over. And I'm like, who are these? All of a sudden they were everywhere. Is that kind of what you're hoping for, or?
Well, okay. So that segues into a little story for me. My first success that eye drop I talked to you about, the eye whitener.
Yeah.
So when I developed that, I wasn't really consumed with, is this going to be a big hit or not a big hit? I'm too nerdy. I was consumed with, is this really better?
Yeah.
And so in those days, while I almost had a deal early on, didn't happen. And I wound up 3 years believing in this product, going from pharmaceutical company to another one, and they all liked it. But they all said the same thing. It's such a crowded industry. Yeah. There's so many products out there, and there's Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies even that own some of these products. Finally, I got investors interested. We did a phase 3 study on an eye whitening drop. That's unheard of, but we did it. The results were great. Next thing you know, it's licensed. And now, in 1 year, become the industry leader and number one doctor recommended. Now, if you would have asked me then, the question you asked me now, I had no idea, right? Yeah. I feel like I did then on steroids now. Meaning, to me, yeah. Breinfuel has as much just things that fell together besides the thinking behind it, where one blend supports the other. If I call each blend the nootropic stack, because that's what we usually call nootropics, you put, group together, right? Yep. But each blend supports the other. The fuel blend supports the caffeine blend, and the antioxidants support, the fuel blend. Because if you don't have good fuel, you get oxidative stress. So all these things supported each other. Zinc, L-theanine, beetroot powder, they all have roles to play that are synergistic. So to me, this is a nootropic super stack. So I'm so excited about the potential benefits here. Yeah. I don't want to call this something that we can claim has health benefits as a product, because in the CPG space, you can't just, that's just throwing branding around. All I know is there's a lot of healthy ingredients in Breinfuel, right? Gotcha. So where could this go? We're doing a study on 100 subjects. We're studying 6 cognitive values that are typically assessed in scientific studies, working with a company. And we're really excited to see what we learn, as we start to try to get some data behind what we're saying. So I am very bullish that Breinfuel could become, something that has an it factor to it. But it's hard to say. The average beverage takes 4 years to take off if it's going to take off. I'm hoping that we might be able to be the exception to that, but we definitely want to walk before we run. The biggest mistake, I've had some really smart people give me some good advice. One sold, a very, very, very popular health bar, protein health bar, gotcha. For major, major money. And the first thing they said was, the first year we found out who our best target was. We refined everything that made them happy. That went viral because they were so happy with us. Yeah. And by the time we were ready to scale in retail, we were able to command our margins. We were able to pull everyone. A lot of people have heard of the product already. So what we're trying to do is make sure our flavors are really great, which I think they are now. And we want to make sure that we can figure out the right price point for the best velocity. This is a premium product. Now, if you look at the beverage space, what does something cost per ounce? That's an interesting thing to look at. A lot of caffeinated beverages, 10, 12 cents an ounce. Yeah. Now think about that. You got the cost of your packaging. You got the cost of your advertising. How much of that is going into your health? Now, Breinfuel is about 30 cents an ounce, because a little bit more. Why? Same cost for packaging, probably even less cost for marketing right now, because the ingredients cost more. You can't have hydrolyzed collagen, medium chain triglycerides, great antioxidants, green coffee bean extract, green tea extract, beetroot powder. Some athletes will take any one of those, right? You have vital proteins, that's collagen water. That's all they sell, and that's a whole product. And a lot of triathletes like beetroot powder, which is just one component of Breinfuel. So we've tried to make let's just call it a product that has a symphony of really healthy ingredients that were selected for a reason to work together, in order to make this a great product. We have to make your brain happy. The caffeine has to work, and the brain has to have what it needs to process it, take advantage of it, and stay cool as a cucumber afterwards. That's the goal. So you feel locked in. You might feel locked in 8 or 10 hours later if you try to do something. So, will we take off? The public will decide, right? The public is our judge. All I know is I slogged through my first product and it became a big hit. I'm a big believer in this one. And I think it deserves, again, that whole intersection of what we know now versus what we know tomorrow means that we have to expect what we know now, question whether something else is really better, because everybody says their new product is better. I mean, the public has no way to know, right? So we have to live in that space and hope the same thing that happened to my eye whitening drop, which is called Lumify, by the way. Now, remember, I didn't create the brand name. I didn't do the marketing. The success of Lumify is not just because I, created an eye drop that whitens. It's because Bausch Healthcare crushed it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They marketed it so well. But the whole point is the public will decide. And I just think they understand that there's a science guy, nerdy guy behind this who's done some work on the pharmaceutical side and is trying to get my goal. I'm a physician at heart. My goal is to do something that's good for people. My goal would be something that's really good for people, that if 3 years from now you and I were talking and we had the money and we did a study on some population of people, it could even be older people, it could be people that have early Alzheimer's. I'd love to find out what BrainFuel could do if it was used regularly, or said another way, some of the ingredients in BrainFuel, if you use them every day, what they could do for your health. We can't answer that question today.
Right.
But that's my hope for BrainFuel becoming something important, in the beverage space that can help people.
Well, I think I'm on a much smaller scale with my podcast, but it sounds like you're trying to do things. I mean, there's a niche and there's a need, especially with the nootropics in the brain, and people are consuming caffeine with coffee or with sugary drinks and all that, and you're trying to provide an alternative that's actually healthier for you. I mean, so you're doing a good thing, and everyone wants to make a little bit of money out of it. So I think it's an awesome business plan.
Well, thank you. Listen, we can't underestimate how important it is to feel good at the end of your day and have energy to get through your day. I mean, if you wake up and that particular day, your brain says, I need a day off, you're screwed.
Yeah, especially if you're traveling.
It could be you're taking care of 3 kids. I mean, it could be you're doing a Zoom presentation at 4:00 and you've got to crush it. I mean, there's so many reasons. We're not really alive if our brains aren't really in the game, resonating, and we don't feel good. We don't feel energy. I mean, we're just not who we are supposed to be. I really think that's the key. The thing about who we are, we're self-actualized when we're on our game. We're not who we should be when we don't have the energy to do A, B, C, or D. Our brain's tired. We can't think well that day. I think these are common realities, So, and then there's all the high performance we want to do. I got here's a little plug for Peloton. I got a Peloton, about a month ago now, and I haven't had a chance to even ride a bike in a while. I get on that thing. I had a BrainFuel. An hour later, I passed up 11 riders in 30 minutes. That's just not who I am.
Yeah.
I could feel I could grind. I didn't feel the anaerobic, cramping in my legs like I usually do.
Yeah.
And I just kept going. And so I can't speak for everybody's experience, but we've had UFC fighters try it. We have one, Randy Costa, who's got a major fight coming up in March, who loves BrainFuel. We have some real stars in the poker space. Phil Hellmuth loves BrainFuel, and he's come on. We're going to have a press release soon about some of the poker stars that are enjoying BrainFuel. So look, I'm looking for what demographics really resonate with your brain is on and your body is getting great energy. Well, try playing poker in a 6-hour tournament, 8-hour tournament, or a 58-day tournament in the World Series of Poker from some of these superstars. It's almost like you've got to be an athlete, right?
Yeah.
So
a mental athlete.
A mental athlete, and even physically. That takes a physical toll too.
Yep. Just sitting
and
there.
You got to be on top of your game, because I imagine to play poker, you got to be able to assess your competitor as much as you do the cards. You can't afford to miss little tells, right?
Yeah.
So we're excited. We're excited that some of these archetypes are really enjoying BrainFuel, and we just think the more people try it and test it. If I was going to say one thing, if you're going to try a BrainFuel, go for it. Give your brain the toughest test you can, or your body. or both. See how you feel afterwards.
Well, yeah.
Because if you do nothing, it'll just feel good. But when you try to tire yourself out,
as long as, like for me, like I've tried different caffeines. Like I said, I've interviewed 7 or 8 different Olympic athletes, and for them, you get one chance after training for 4 years. You're thrown out there, and like I talked to Connor Fields, who's a BMX rider. His whole performance is 23 seconds long. So 4 years of training for 23 seconds.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that, because we're obviously interested in that. Caffeine isn't that good for these athletes because they don't want to crash.
They can't afford it.
Breinfuel doesn't really have that. Breinfuel doesn't really have the crash. So a lot of athletes, we have a couple NFL players that have tried it and that like it. So a lot of people are getting the crash now. So it's sort of redefining. You can't tell an Olympic athlete they can't have a cup of coffee. I don't think. I mean, from what I know, at least let me say it this way: in professional sports, I don't know about the Olympics, but in professional sports, you can have caffeine or coffee anytime you want.
Yep.
But most athletes don't really want to because they don't want the down. So we're finding a lot of athletes are finding this very interesting. How about a golfer? When you're on the green, your hands and your muscles have to relax. Yet you want energy.
Yeah.
So does a caffeine buzz work when you're putting? I don't think so. But could a product that's metabolically supporting caffeine so you don't feel the jitters, but you feel energized and your brain's locked in, could that be good for a golfer? I'd love to see, that, for example, guys on the senior tour, this could be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what about regular golfers, athletes, et cetera? I'll tell you the interesting thing. Some of these great athletes, including one of the poker stars that we're working with, what I found was there's a reason they're superstars. A lot of them already figured out a lot about what's in Breinfuel in their own way. Their diet is a very Breinfuel-like diet. They don't eat they don't have high glycemic sugar. They have lean protein. They have medium chain triglycerides. They have antioxidants. There is a way to get some semblance of what's in Breinfuel in your life, and some great athletes do that.
Sure.
So
broken it down.
Breinfuel's kind of delivering what the great superstars have figured out. I mean, I guarantee you, I don't know Michael Jordan, but when he played, I did live in Chicago, and I was a big fan. And take a look at how lean he was, okay? That guy knew how to take care of his body. He knew how to fuel his brain and body, right, to be on. Absolutely. So there is a way, and Breinfuel just shortcuts it for you.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people need. Like I said, when I go back east for work, I just lost my 3 hours, and then part of my territory is Hawaii, so I lose 3 hours when I go that way, and I always feel like I'm going to have a coffee or a soda to get me started, and then once I've started that, it's hard for me to get back off of it because now my body's kind of jacked up because I've given it too much and too much sugar, and it's spiking and all that, and I feel it. So you got.
Hey, I'm telling you, people have no idea how harmful spiking their sugar levels is. If you did it just once a week or a month, that's one thing. But because it's so common, if you were to analyze our health, what's it like to be a teenager in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s? You are adding cumulative damage every decade that has to do with a whole bunch of things we could have done better. A lot of them are nutritional. Some of them are stress-related, but they all relate to the same thing. Your body needs to process oxygen clean, just like a car that has premium fuel. And the more you have crap like high fructose in there, and the more you're having Coca-Cola with 0 calories or high calories, the more you're gumming up the works for yourself. And oxidative stress is what it's called. And there is not a disease state I know of. It doesn't have scientific validation that oxidative stress is a big cause of it. You could take all the neurodegenerative things that happen to our brain and Alzheimer's. You could take heart disease. You could take the etiology of most cancer. First comes oxidative stress. You're not processing fuel well. And what that means is the fuel that didn't get spent leaves little oxygen atoms, and they suck up electrons. It's a very common bad thing that we live with every day. Now, why would Breinfuel have anything to do with that? Because if you want to rev up your metabolism, and your brain doesn't like oxidative stress in the first place, you got to try to suppress it. So I personally believe, independent of Breinfuel, that if you want to age more slowly, that the future of our health has to do with figuring out how to suppress this thing we call oxidative stress. And it's not as simple as let's just throw vitamin C at it. More complicated than that. But it's certainly something I predict. Even now, people are taking things, maybe nootropic supplements, maybe it'll turn out to be Breinfuel, we'll see, that will reduce oxidative stress, and that's one of the reasons they feel better. That's one of the reasons they'll go to sleep feeling better. If you go to sleep feeling bad, you probably have oxidative stress. If you feel tender, I'm not talking about if you have serious diseases, because that could be a whole different genetic issue, but just in general, you feel some inflammation, you press on your chest, and everything's a little sore that day, and your brain just feels like it's wigged out now, you're in oxidative stress. You could take probably what's called a lipophilic antioxidant, like vitamin E is one, just within normal levels. And you could take a water-based one, like vitamin C. If you took that at night and your brain wasn't feeling good, you'd probably wake up feeling great. And it's a harmless thing to do, as long as you stay within normal, ranges of these things. So there's a huge opportunity here for us to do things different than we did yesterday. And why is that not surprising? Because we both know 20 years from now, everything will be different.
Yep.
We're not at the absolute peak level of figuring out health and fitness and energy. So Breinfuel is simply, I believe, a step forward on the path to getting to the next level.
I didn't realize it had only been out for 6 weeks, but because everything you're saying and what I've read on it just makes perfect sense to me of where I'm at now. Because like you said, I'm a big fan of Google and YouTube learning how to do things. Like you were saying about how you can get a PhD without going to school. You might and I'm the same way. So I'm like, that's why I've been reading up on nootropics and health and diets. And I think more and more people are, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older and I want to live longer, or I've realized, I told my wife this. I was like, growing up, my parents did the best they could with what they knew, which wasn't much. And, it was like, hey, eat a bowl of cereal. Here's your craptastic lunch. And I don't know why you're not doing well. You know what I mean? Because the knowledge wasn't out there back then, 30, 40 years ago. So hopefully.
Yeah, it's an evolving story.
Yeah.
There's more knowledge out there, but, you think about it. How do you know what to believe? Right? That's the hard part for the consumer. And, I think that products that are really better for you more than ever before are resonating with the public. One thing we found out in the pandemic when we were looking to launch, we're doing a pilot with a major drug chain right now in their healthy section of their stores nationwide. We got excitement for them about this pilot before they could even try the product, because the pandemic made everybody look for products with healthier ingredients.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a positive working in our favor, because if people didn't really give a darn about something being healthier, just drink the 55 grams of carbs. It tastes great. You have to want healthier. I can't make something taste as good as a hot fudge sundae, although I think the flavors, I honestly think the flavors in Breinfuel are incredible. They did evolve. We used a flavor house called Flavor Man. And we put a lot of effort into making them. If you think about what's in it, you can't taste any of that stuff. So we have a peach mango. We have a tart berry. We have a punch, like an alpha punch, we call it. And we have a Thrive Ice. It's like a citrus. And they give you a variety of flavors, and they're all really, really tasty. So obviously it's important. People still want things that taste good, but you have to want some health benefits too. If you just want, your Coca, you just want your soft drink that's loaded in sugar, it'll taste good that moment. But boy, is it rough on you.
Well, it's kind of like I want to look like the guys I see at the gym, but I don't want to go to the gym as much as they do. Well, it doesn't work that way.
But the funny part about the guys that look good in the gym, 90% of that is what they eat.
Oh,
it's as they get lean, then the workout starts to show. Until they get lean, you can't even see it.
There's a guy at the gym I work out with, and that I'm working out at, and he is the biggest man I've ever personally seen in person. And
Wow.
he's 6'1", maybe 6'2", and he's 370 pounds.
Oh my.
And he's got, I think he said 25-inch arms.
Are we talking muscle here?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's doing reps with 780 pounds. I mean, he's just a behemoth of a man, but he knows everything that's going into his body. I mean, you talk to him, and he's like, he breaks down every meal, all the supplements, everything. So it's possible to get that level without, like you said, you have to be lean, though. You have to know what your diet is. It's not just about lifting weights or whatever exercise you do.
Listen. The funny part about developing Breinfuel is my own personal, fitness journey, because for me, I would rather work out, and I'm not going to lie to you, I am a sugar addict.
Yeah, me too.
And I used to say crack cocaine sugar addict, but that doesn't sound good because I've never taken a drug in my life. But the truth is, sugar for me is like a drug. Yep. And so Breinfuel has really helped me break it. It just has. When listen, it's not the Breinfuel. If you had for lunch some lean protein, let's look at what's in Breinfuel, right? Some kind of, let's say you had a coffee with, grass-fed butter in it, which is what bullet coffee really is.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you did that, you're giving your body a lot of nutrition. You're giving it some calories without sugar, basically. And it resets your taste buds. It resets your craving. And that's what started to happen to me when I started drinking, my product, right? So I was thinking of it, as a LASIK surgeon for a source of energy. But in reality, when I take it every day, my cravings change, my habits change. It's not a diet product at all. It's just, you can get the benefits I'm telling you about if you just chose, lean protein, medium chain triglycerides, maybe a little bit of hopefully low glycemic sugar, throw some antioxidants in there. You get something very similar to what you get in a serving of Breinfuel. If you did that every day at lunch, what happened? Your cravings change. I used to love this deli turkey sandwich, and I'd say, it's pretty healthy because it's turkey. Well, first of all, it's 2 inches high.
Yeah.
It's got lathered in slices of cheese. It's got mayo on it. And I tell myself, well, I won't eat the top of the bread, and I won't eat all the turkey. And then I'd have a 160-calorie drink, and I say, well, I'll just have half of it. And that was my go-to for a healthy thing. After 10 days of drinking Breinfuel, I'm like, wait a second. Why don't I have... I went into the deli, and I didn't want that exact thing. I said, I'll have the lean turkey on a platter. I'll take these pinto beans, and I'll have a little Mediterranean salad over there, and it tasted delicious. Why did that happen to me? I wasn't trying to go there. My taste buds were changing. Yeah, I got out of that rut. So I think there's independent of Breinfuel, but as a sidebar, that healthy fuel thing is what great athletes have figured out. When they get in the groove of healthy fuel, low glycemic, lean protein, the medium chain triglycerides, hopefully something with some antioxidants in it, it resets them. They naturally. How did Michael Jordan stay lean his whole career?
Yeah.
He had to. Nobody can make their brain have the discipline to fight off all their cravings. You have to start to like what you're eating. So I think that to go full circle about Breinfuel, in general, beverages have an opportunity to affect their health in ways they didn't used to affect it. If they're going to get healthier, they have to fuel you better, right? It can't be healthier and be 0 calories. I don't think so.
No, I disagree.
I mean, you got to have some nutrition in there. So if they're going to fuel you better, we're going to start evolving to be less overweight. Well, and you know what the greatest test of how fit you are is? And the simplest test. You ready for this?
Yeah.
It's obvious. You take a tape measure, you hold it in between your hip bone and your rib, right in the middle there. You don't suck in your gut. Do not suck in your gut. And measure your waistline. You don't stick it out, but you don't suck it in because you want to be honest with yourself. Divide it by your height. And if it's 4 to 0.53, you're really fit. And if it's 0.6 or higher, you got work to do. And so you can look at that as what's great about that is if you were to track those values, you'll learn a lot more than you will on a scale. A lot more. And if you try to do what a lot of people do to see if they're lean, called BMI,
Yeah.
that's a hard thing to do well. And if you're really like Thomas DeLauer, he's so muscle laden, it throws off his BMI reading.
Yeah, because he's got so much muscle mass.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, I hope I.
No. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Thank you. As a doctor, most doctors that I've met and lawyers, people that have gone to a higher level of college learning, kind of when they get there, they stay there. And you really haven't. You've always, like you said, you're a nerdy inventor kind of guy. Why do you think you're different in that way? Like you didn't become a doctor and make the money you were going to make and be happy and that's it. Why do you think you had that next level?
I really believe sometimes our brains are just wired to be curious or something.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 4 years old, I went into our kitchen and my mother comes in. I'd been there for a while and I had tied every cabinet I could reach. Maybe I was 5. I had tied every single cabinet with a string. So they're all tied together and I gave her the string and said, look, Mom, now you can open all the cabinets at once.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think my personality was just always driven to think there are simple ways to do something that's different, and I always believe that. And it's not just me, right? A lot of people who've made a difference in the world didn't have to have an astrophysics degree to make a difference. They found a simple way to do something better. And that's just how my brain works. My brain always says there's got to be a simple way to do something different than we've done now. And because it's never been about money for me, honestly, when I started out my little pharmaceutical career, who was I to say that I could develop a drug? I was just a physician with a college degree and nothing to do with drug development. We didn't study drug development, right?
Yeah.
But that's actually a nerdy story unto its own. But the bottom line is, I think in life, you pursue your passion. If your passion is to be a designer, be a designer whether you're successful or not. Just stay with it. If your passion is to do drug development, do research. Find something that fascinates you. Find a way. It took me 10 years to get my first drug on the market, really. And so I think that, for me, what's exciting and makes life really interesting. And so, I guess that's just, whether I made money on it or not, how I like to live my life. And I think everybody potentially has their own sweet spot. What makes you passionate and happy? You find that, don't give it up, ever. Don't give it up for money.
So, I totally
that would be my thought.
Well, that's what people ask me. I have a really good job. I'm doing really well at it. They're like, why would you start a podcast and add that time to your day? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just something I want to do. I love talking to people, learning things. And now I get to share, and the fact that the show's been listened to in 100 plus countries, it's crazy to me. So it's the same.
Well, I think that's a testimony to you. You pursued a passion, and I get to be on your podcast. I mean, it's a great thing for me, and it's exciting. So it's kind of an interesting synergy. We both pursued something that we like,
outside of,
and I get a chance to talk to you and your audience, and you get a chance to talk to all kinds of people more interesting than me, right? These are, oh yes.
No.
But anyway, I really loved the chance to talk to you.
Appreciate it. What's the best way for my listeners to find out what's going on with Breinfuel?
So Breinfuel is available both on Amazon and on our website. Breinfuel is spelled Brein. We don't want to just be the brain, anatomical brain. We're a unique product. So it's BREINFUEL.com. And you go to the shop page for delicious flavors to choose from and give it a try. I think if you...
Well, I was going to say,
you're a Breinfuel.
Yeah, you're on Instagram too, though. I mean, you're on a lot of social media platforms.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we're selling it on Instagram, but we certainly are on social media. We're on Facebook and we're on Instagram and we're on LinkedIn. But in terms of, if you want to try the product, and also if you go to our website, again, my nerdy side, I've done a lot of things. I have blogs and, other shows I've had the privilege to be on. Hopefully we'll have your show on our website too. And it's a chance to learn the nerdy side of me. I have an article in there about oxidative stress that I think is a primer for the future of human health. Not because I'm so smart. There's plenty of people who understand oxidative stress better than I do. I just think for some reason, people have not yet realized. You'll hear all these things, all these nootropics people are taking, trying to make their telomeres work better, trying to come up with crazy molecules, paracetam, and all kinds of other things. Whatever combats oxidative stress is going to be a health winner. And I have a whole blog post on oxidative stress there that I think is well worth a read. And a bunch of other things if you want to learn more about, how I think or the pharmaceutical side of my thinking or more about the ingredients in our product. It's brainfuel.com. You can learn more and you can buy the product.
I'll make sure I send it out, and I'll put all those links on my website as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Horn. I truly appreciate the time.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed every second.
Appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.